All right, we will get this rolling. Hope everyone's doing well today. And I want to thank everybody for joining us for the first ever Ask Anything panel. We're super excited about this. My name is Andy Causey. I'm the regional director for the West region for the Ability Experience, and um, I appreciate you joining. Whether you are a brother of Pocket with Phi, if you are someone affiliated with us on staff, or you just joined in to hear one of our panelists. We are super grateful you decided to spend this afternoon with us. So to get things started, I'd like our panelists to each introduce themselves. So Kyle, can you kick it off for us?
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kyle Pease. I'm a graduate of Kennesaw State University. I have Ada Delta, and I also run the Kyle Pease Foundation with my older brother, Brett.
Kyle and Evan.
Yeah. My name is Evan Austin. I'm a two-time Paralympic swimmer for Team USA. I competed at both the London and Rio Paralympic Games in swimming, and still compete as a national team member for Team USA, and have reached success. Most importantly, last summer at 2019, I became a world champion for the first time. But I'm also a alumni brother of Pi Kappa Phi from the Indiana State chapter Eta Beta. Go Sycamores, and I'm happy to be here. Thanks for the invite.
My name is Suan Trump. I am a current graduate student at UNC Charlotte. I am on the student advisory board for the Disability Services Office, so we talk about things surrounding disabilities, and we do panels similar to these, except live versions. And then I also help run Indivisible, which is a student organization on campus that helps to facilitate conversations around disability.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank each of you for joining us and sharing your perspectives and asking questions or answering questions that we might have for the disability community. And to everyone that's on this call, we will start with questions, and we'll start with the questions that you sent in when you registered. But at any time when you think of a question, feel free to hit the Q&A down at the bottom and type in your question, and we'll filter through those and hopefully get to some of them throughout the call today. So, I want to start out this call with a question. So what is the best way that I can support and be an advocate for people with disabilities? I open it to any three of you.
I think that for one, I think that just by reaching out and letting us know that you're available and that you would like to help us with whatever we need help with. Every disability is a little bit different, depending on case by case scenario. So just reaching out and letting us know that you're available, to me, that means a lot.
Yeah, for me, it's there's no secret formula to finding a way to help somebody. I approach it the same way I'd try and find a way to help any person, whether they have an impairment or not. I think everyone, some people have visible impairments, like the panelists that you see here, but a lot of people have things that exist under the surface. And so what Kyle said, just being available and letting someone know that in any situation, you might not know how to help, but you're willing to learn how to help, and you're willing to just be there. I think that goes really a long way for people who have impairments, both, physical, emotional, mental, any impairment that exists. I think just the idea of someone's presence really means a lot, and that's obviously a huge step forward.
I think a lot of it is if an able-bodied person can talk to other able-bodied individuals about disability, if they see, hey, this could be more accessible, or this can be, you can do this in a more inclusive way, then go ahead and have those conversations on our behalf, because sometimes it's hard for us to open those conversations. And I think, like, not that like we're unequal, but I think like peer to peer, there's something to be said about advocacy on that level.
Yeah, and I get the piggyback off of what the other panelists said. I know I want to be treated just the same. I don't want people to look at my disability in my wheelchair. I want them to look at Kyle for Kyle and what Kyle has accomplished with all his life. So I think that's huge, and I think we do need advocates like yourself to help us. But at the same time, it's important for people to look at who we are and not the wheelchair or disability.
Mm-hmm.
Of course. Thank you. So next question for you. Does it feel degrading for someone to act sympathetic towards your disability?
It does. I think because I come from an Asian background, so it's a little bit different. People will look at me and be like, oh, you poor helpless thing, what did your parents do for you to deserve this life? Because of like Buddhism and reincarnation. And so it's like, they probably didn't do anything. And then it's like their perception of me is something that I don't agree with, but I can't change what other people think. And what other people think is their business. So yeah, it makes me feel icky, but I can't control that. I can't control their thoughts. I can just control how I react to it. And sometimes it's not nice, but it's okay.
I don't know if degrading is the word that I would use personally. Maybe unsettling is kind of a more appropriate term, just because I want to believe in the goodness of the human condition, and I feel like the idea of feeling sorry for someone with an impairment comes from a good spot. They want to have this level of empathy for someone with an impairment, but like Sue-Ann said, the perception of what I'm capable of and how my life is, you might be completely off on that. So, and for me personally, I've got to do a lot of things because of my impairment, right? So I get to travel the world with Team USA. I've met all these incredible people. When I got onto my college campus, the Brothers of Pi Kappa Phi sought me out specifically because they saw me as a person that could help in their mission. So I owe a lot of things that are really positive in my life to my disability, my impairment. So I think perception is definitely off. And I think that's what maybe is the most unsettling for me, is that just because I walk a little bit different, I'm in a wheelchair, 80% of my life, doesn't mean my life is in any way, shape, or form of lesser value or lesser substance just because, this is how it is. So it just, I think Sue-Ann used icky is a good word. It's the idea that someone, is trying to picture what you are outside of that specific moment they see you, and they get it all wrong, right? So I don't feel degraded upon, because like I said, I want it to, I hope it's from a spot where they're like, I wish I could do something for them. But I really don't want you to feel sorry for me, because a lot of really awesome things have happened because of my impairment.
Yeah, to piggyback again off of what Sue Ann ever said, I, you know, I God made me a little bit different, but you know, we all have challenges in our lives. We all have something that we have to overcome. And to be honest with everybody, we all have a disability. Some are more noticeable than others, but exactly to every point, you know, I've been so blessed to go all over the country to do the Ironman World Championships in Hawaii 2 years ago, and I'm proud of that. So I agree with Elliot and Suan. It does feel a little icky, and I don't want anybody to treat me any different. You know, I don't want any hand-me-downs. I want to earn it based on my own merit, not because of my disability.
Thank you guys for that. Appreciate that honest perspective from you guys. So the next question I have for you: what are some assumptions you face that may surprise people?
I get stopped on the road because people think I'm this baby that got loose. and and my wheelchair is like the stroller that just someone just forgot to put the brakes on it. And I get stopped quite a bit because of that.
Yeah, I think some assumptions, it's hard to pinpoint one, because, everyone thinks differently. So I guess one that would be common for me is just because of the gait of my walk. Whenever I do walk, people think I'm in pain in some way. They think like, oh, he needs to lay down or something like that. Like, no, this is me all the time, everywhere. But I'm gonna be okay. I'm not in pain. It's not a chore for me to have to do this. This is just my natural gait and the function of my legs. So like the faces that I get where people are just wincing as I'm walking by, it doesn't hurt. I'm fine. So I think it's just an odd assumption that this is just my normal, but in some way it pains other people. I think that's kind of silly.
Hey, I'm not in any pain at all. You know, my wrist is all contorted and it was kind of funny. And people think that because I sit funny, like, are you in pain? Or the worst, one of the worst is I get there, people come up to me and they get really close and they start talking very loud, and I start backing up. Because I don't want to be around that, and I don't, normally I'm a very shy person until you get to know me. So I'm I'm not gonna, I'll talk to anybody, but I want them to talk to me on my own level, right? Like, if you need to take a knee so that we could be on the same eye level, then let's do that. There are so many modifications, but to assume something, it's wrong. And people really need to look at their hearts and see what they can offer. And like you said at the beginning, Andy, how can you help us? That's not helping us. We can make assumptions. That's always going to make it more awkward for all of us.
Thank you. Any more thoughts on that for you three? All right. I want to remind our attendees, feel free to drop a question in the Q&A at any point, and we'll try to get to those questions as well. So on to the next question. What's the one thing that you wish people would stop asking you? And then, I guess, what's the one thing you wish that people would start asking you?
Can I go first? Because I wish people would just stop asking me my age. That is rude. Like, you wouldn't go up to a grown woman and ask her age. Just randomly, like, without any conversation starter, right? So why would you do that to me? And my response to that question used to be, well, how old are you? And then now I start to, my go-to question now is, or go-to response now is, why do you want to know? And I have yet to have a good answer to that question. They get offended, which is, I don't know. And then I think I wish people would start asking me, hey, what condition do you have? Because I'm really curious. And because that's an educated question. You can learn something from that. My age is going to change every year. So that's my answer to that.
Yeah, my questions mostly involve like asking things about my limitations. Like, can you do this? What about this? Like, oh, like this is pretty easy for me. Are you capable of doing it? Like, that's not important information to you. Can I run 100 meters in less than so odd seconds? No, I can't. But like, my life is going to be fine without that skill. Ask me about like, can I deliver a keynote to thousands of people and like give some perspective? What's life in the what's a day in the life of a Team USA swimmer like? Ask me something personal. But also more on what Sue-Ann said, piggybacking off it, because that was immediately my thought. I wish people would directly ask, what's the name of your condition? Because we can't we can't be an advocate for something that we know nothing about, right? So the spectrum of impairments and disabilities is vast, obviously. And everyone, even people that have the same diagnosis, have their own little idiosyncrasies on whether their severity is worse, adaptations that they can make that some people, other people can't. So asking directly, breaking through that very thin layer of ice just to start an intelligent conversation. That's how I know people are actually curious about finding a way to help me and help people like me. If you're afraid to ask something that's a part of who I am and my identity, then I know that you're not actually serious about trying to support not only myself, but people in my community. So I wish people would ask, directly, like, what condition do you suffer from? Is it hereditary? Have you had it since birth? Was it dormant and then came about later in life? Did you have an accident that caused this? The more informed questions that you can ask that, can really begin the movement of a conversation. That's how I know within that one conversation that we're taking a step forward.
And the piggyback off of what both of these great panelists have said, one thing that really gets with me was stare. Like I understand little kids, they're gonna be inquisitive, that they're gonna ask. By the way, kids ask the best questions because they have no fear and they get kind of run out with it. Whereas adults, and I used to work at a major grocery store here in Atlanta, and I work at a big healthcare system now at Piedmont. And, whenever somebody is like, well, why does it look like that? And then they get to walk down the hallway. That's rude. Just if you want to know something, ask me. I'm an open book. I have no private life. You can Google me and my whole life will come out. So I just think that people should just ask. Because if you don't ask, you'll never know. And then the other part was just reach out and instead of, are you okay? What can I do for you? Or I'm here for you. I love you. Just thinking about you, stuff like that to, to give us encouragement.
Thank you guys for those answers. I truly appreciate it. I'd say one of the most asked questions for you three is, how is COVID-19 impacting you currently?
I'll start. So I'm training for Tokyo 2020 with Team USA. I'm a member of the national team. And the IPC, the National Paralympic Committee, made the decision, along with the International Olympic Committee, to postpone the games for at least 1 year. And so that definitely threw a major wrench in my plan, right? Because I'm in a unique situation. I'm not an NFL player. I'm not a basketball player where there's a season every year, right? Like, you scrap one season, that's not the end of the world. I only have an opportunity to compete at the games once every 4 years, right? And a lot of athletes, just the way the timing works out, it only happens once. And I've been fortunate enough to go to 2 games so far, with the plans to go to a third. But every athlete's career is short. And we run out of that longevity, that period of your life where you're just in that good of shape and you have that drive. So postponing what was looking like going to be my games, I was setting myself up. This was the best position I'd had to come, represent USA in Tokyo and win some medal, come away with some hardware. So it was devastating, honestly, but it was the right call. Athlete safety first and foremost. So we had to make some changes. I haven't been in the water for upwards of 2.5 months or something like that. And so we're getting creative, and I'm doing some on land training with some medicine balls and some cords and a lot of flexibility work. And we're just trying to weather the storm, and that's the best I can do. And something really helpful to weathering the storm is I found some interests outside of the sport of swimming. When on my day-to-day, that's 90% of my life is how can I get better at my craft, my sport. And so I'm trying to set myself up post not only COVID-19, but post my career coming to an end in the water. So my close friend and I, Timothy Goldman, have started laying the groundwork for a business that we're trying to found together called Goldman Creative Entertainment. And it's given me a lot of experience, and it's challenging me in new ways. And I think it's important to do that just for your sanity, is trying new things and maybe devote some time, some effort, and some energy to something new. And I'm really excited. It's in the embryonic stages right now, but having a new goal and a new project to push, myself mentally has been really helpful for getting through COVID-19.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, because I am a human, there have been some really good days and some really not so good days. I haven't worked that much. I normally take public transportation here in Atlanta to anywhere I want to go, and I either haven't been on our transportation in about 8 weeks. So I kind of get cooped up here. I haven't even seen my brother. All of our races have been canceled through July. But there's still so much work to do, making sure that all of our other athletes that the foundation represents, making sure that they are okay, making sure that they have what they need. And then just really thinking outside the box and listening to the gift that we all have, because we all have a gift every day, and we can either choose to tackle that gift head on, or we can just let it go by. And I think, there are days, like I said, where they don't start well, but really have to give myself a pep talk and know that there, like Evan said, there's more than just sports out there. I miss it. I can't wait to get back out there, but it's not safe right now, and we need to help our community and be there for the community to help them focus on what's important, and that is that we could be hopeful in this really crucial time for our nation and the world.
I feel like half of my life just got canceled in one swoop of a legislation. I was supposed to go to DC and spend the summer up there for an internship, and then I work at a performing arts theater, and all those shows have been canceled until further notice. But on the flip side, I've felt a sense of equity. I feel like, just for me, I see so many possibilities with this COVID for people with disabilities, especially people with physical disabilities. I feel like I can access things a lot better. I don't need to carry a book bag and like head out the door to a place where people will have to open the door for me and people will have to pull out a chair for me. I can just, log on to my computer and just access a Zoom meeting. And I feel like, in a way, the playing field has been leveled temporarily. And I hope that some of these things are here to stay. I think employers are going to rethink work from home positions and that accommodation and what that looks like. I think asking for that accommodation will be a lot easier. And it's rewiring my brain to think differently, and I like it. I think it's time for a change. I think it's time to do new things and do it in new ways and be creative.
Thank you for that. Yeah, great perspective and point for how COVID-19 hopefully changes society after all of this. I don't know if the three of you have been outside the country, but do you notice any differences in how you're treated or the accessibility in other countries?
I have not been out of the country in about 9 years, so I'm not very good to answer that question.
I can go. I was outside of the country just before we all got locked down. Actually, I was in Australia in February. Before, I might have brought Corona back with me. I don't know. No, it's bizarre. It depends on the country. It really does. You go to some parts of Europe and the buildings that you walk around and you see were built before Columbus even found our continent. So, it's kind of wild whether, cities or countries have made some modifications or renovations to update and make things really accessible, or if they haven't, and you rely on the help of who you're traveling with, or your critical thinking and your problem solving to get into a building or not. Have I noticed a major difference? No, because USA is so vast. State to state could be super different. A lot of things in California are made super accessible, but downtown Manhattan, it's not going to work. There's just no way to do it a lot of places. And where I'm in Indiana, everything's pretty spread out because we're a farm state, and so things are really easy for me because there's plenty of space, and buildings are built with extra large doors, and yeah, it's great. So as far as a noticeable difference, no, because I think some communities all around the world take making adaptations for the disabled community seriously, and some that's a project on the back burner that when some funds free up, maybe they'll get after it with a few municipal buildings or something like that. But I haven't really seen that one country has the edge over us or not. Maybe in some parts they do, maybe in some parts they don't.
I was in Vietnam about 3 years ago, and it would be a horrible country for me to live in. There's steps everywhere. Like country and city, like they're, pick your poison. Because in the countryside, there's grass and like wilderness. There's not a paved walkway. And then in the city, all the buildings are crammed together. People are living on top of each other. And it's crossing the street is scary. Like you say a prayer. And it's just not built for people with physical disabilities, and in the country itself, the culture itself doesn't look at disability in a good light. It's something that it's like a disease. It's, a lot of people hide their disabled relatives inside the house. They're not allowed to go out because if you go out, they're going to look at you funny, and people are going to stare and ask very insensitive questions. So it's a lose-lose either way. But for me, when I went over there, I was treated like a golden unicorn because I'm an American citizen and I went to college and I studied abroad. And my aunts and uncles didn't know how to treat me because because they've never seen America. And so they think that I'm this like really high person that has no limitations. And so they're, they really don't know what to think. So on one hand, I'm like, oh, she can do anything in the US. And then on the other hand, people who don't know that I'm an American citizen are like, what? If we touch her, we're going to get infected. And then I studied abroad in London. And in London, the city is built for carriages. And so the streets are super narrow. But now they have cars. And I guess the cars are not as wide as American cars. And the doorways are super narrow. For a city that's considered to be the center of the world, they're not that accessible. But I was treated pretty well. I mean, it wasn't anything different from the US. So I think for me, it's a little different everywhere I go.
Sure. Well, thank you for that. We feel very blessed to live in this United States. So one other question for you, if I can find it. How do you get over, or how do you suggest someone get over their nervousness when they interact with people with disabilities? We really encourage our undergraduate members to have shared experiences, volunteer at organizations that serve people with disabilities, but sometimes there's that nervous sense of interacting with someone with a disability.
Yeah, I'll start. I just come up and say hello. Just be normal, and I'm gonna be normal. And if you're gonna be awkward, then I'm gonna be awkward right back at you. And I think that it is important that we're treated just like everybody else is. We may have a few modifications that we may need help with, but just come up and say hello and let us tell you our story, and then we can learn something for your story too. So just be yourself and let's have a conversation.
I would agree with Kyle. I would just say, just be curious. This person you're interacting with, they're going to be different. They're going to see the world in a different way, and the world for them might not be what your world looks like. But I think that only enhances diversity and will enhance your perspective on life. And I think just approach whoever you're interacting with just a level of respect, and just treat them with equality. I think that's the bottom line.
Yeah, I think as far as the nervousness is concerned, it's a healthy reminder to know that you should have a legitimate level of empowerment when you're at a friendship visit. When you're going through the doors to meet these people for the first time, because for a lot of people that are in these organizations that these people are working with, these community organizations where they're helping people with impairments, they're excited to see you for weeks before you even get there, right? So like your presence being there on that day, that's going to be the best part of that person's day. It's just getting to know each individual person that took time out of their day, is on this big project, just to come see people with impairments. That's super awesome, from someone that's been on both sides of it, right? So I was treated in Riley Children's Hospital in Indianapolis when I was a kid, and people just coming through that I'd never met before that were just doing good, just spreading positivity. That meant the world to me, right? And then I joined Pi Kappa Phi as an undergrad, and we had a community organization that we worked with, and they're almost waiting at the door for us to get there, just because they're so excited for us to be there. And I feel like that should be the most empowering thing to a young student who is nervous about maybe interacting with these people. You have to understand they're super excited to see you. So your level of excitement should match theirs, at least, if not exceed theirs, right? And to reiterate what these people or the other panelists have said, just treat them like a person, right? Would you say hello to a person? Yeah, you would. Would you say hello to a person with an impairment? I hope so, because they're also a person. So a level of curiosity, a level of excitement, and a level of empowerment that, just by you being there, you're making the world a better place. I think that's awesome. I think that you shouldn't have any nervousness at all about doing good.
So more of a fun question for y'all. So what are some of your hobbies and your favorite music artist?
I guess I'll start. I'm a professional athlete. I love sports. It's kind of my whole thing. So my hobbies are kind of on hold right now. Honestly, I'm a professional swimmer, but my favorite sport to watch is soccer. I'm an Arsenal Football Club fan, if any of you soccer people are out there. But I'm also a Packers fan, Indiana Pacers fan, not really a baseball guy. Sorry to all you baseball lovers. And go Ducks, NHL hockey. So all that's kind of on hold right now. So hobbies include Netflix, Hulu, some things like that. Favorite musical artists. Man, I haven't been asked that in a long time. I'm kind of like an alternative rock and roll kind of guy, maybe some alt rock. So Vampire Weekend is like a big one for me. A band called Biffy Clyro that aren't as popular in the States, but I think they're really good. And anything that just gets you moving and grooving, maybe some Jackson 5 in there. I don't know, something good, something positive.
Like Evan, all of my hobbies are on hold as well. I'm really enjoy sports. Me and my brother have done 4 Ironmans together. And so And the biggest one was the 2018 Ironman World Championships in Kona, Hawaii. But like Evan said, I'm a diehard Falcons fan. I have a very almost stalkish with all the Falcons, so it's a very weird obsession. So I can't wait for football to come back, whenever that will be. Baseball, I'm a Braves fan. Basketball, I'm a hometown kind of guy. But right now, I'm watching a lot of Game Show Network. I love Family Feud and American Says and all of that. Big Today Show fan. That's why I get my news in the morning. So I have to be up at 7 o'clock in the morning. But that's sleepy game for me, as I normally get up at 4:30 in the morning for work. So yeah, and I guess favorite music artist, I really don't have one. I like all types, from country all the way to praise and worship music. Just something to keep me upbeat and and such.
I am not into sports. I I'm getting back into cooking again. I think all of 2019 I didn't cook at all, and I think I just survived. I don't know how I lived, but this year I've cooked a lot more meals, and I'm finding my creativity again through cooking and like experimenting with ingredients. And then as for music, I'm a Linkin Park fan. So
Nice, that's awesome. Thanks, guys, for sharing. Two more questions for y'all. This one, what are the things our communities and universities can do to support people with disabilities more?
I'll take it. I think universities, if you don't have a club, go ahead and create one. At UNC Charlotte, there's 400 clubs on campus, but none of them were disability related. And so we filled in that gap. Just see what's missing and just become part of that solution.
Yeah, I think universities could take a page out of what's happening right now, right? Access is like one of the toughest things for a lot of people with impairments and disabilities. So a lot of universities already do this, but maybe having a complete option to have an in-class learning that can be done completely via Zoom, right, for physically disabled students specifically, right? So countless times in undergrad, I lived close to campus, close enough that I could take my wheelchair to campus. But if it's snowing or sleeting outside, a lot of other students, people without disabilities or impairments, they can walk with an umbrella or something like that. I don't have that access, right? I don't have the ability to do that. And it's one thing to just receive slides from a PowerPoint. It's another thing to receive those and hear the lecture and hear the conversation that happens inside the classroom. And I feel like I didn't have that kind of access to when I wasn't able to actually physically be on campus or in the classroom. So I feel like this should be kind of the new norm, right? Every single class is also going to be broadcast or recorded for Zoom, and that goes out to every student that is registered with the Center for Disabled Students. I just feel like having as much of an in-class feel to students that can't get into class all the time is super important for universities.
Yeah, and establish a very good relationship with the disability office. I remember at Kennesaw State University, where I went, that was one of my biggest priorities, was to go out and meet them, because they were one of my biggest allies. and you have to allow them to work with you so that they can better you. And I would say have a one-on-one with your college professor. Write them an email, go during their office hours. That one of my college professors sits on my board of directors. So, we can develop the friendship after school. And yeah, so you have to be empowered to find your voice because nobody's gonna speak up for you. And for the nonverbals, they are a part of society as well, and they deserve to be heard, even though it may not be physically. They add so much value as well. So, be your own advocate and go and make your face known to the disabled office at your local university and to the community.
Thank you. And I think that this last question is kind of similar, but what's one thing that each of us personally and individually can do today to create more of an inclusive community?
Well, I think you're doing it right now, Andy. Have more of these pop-up seminars to allow people like myself, Sulan, and Ellie to share their voices. Because on this panel, we have a wide range of expertise and we can offer help to those that might need it. So continue doing what podcast is doing. You are really leading the way with what you're doing, and it's just a pleasure to be a podcaster, to be on this panel. So I would just say continue to do what you're doing, and other universities and other communities can absolutely learn from the ability experience on how to make it better for everybody and make a more inclusive environment for all of us.
I agree with Kyle. I would say more of a space where people can feel okay to ask questions. In an ideal world, if you just want to ask someone anything, you wouldn't be afraid to do that, but we don't live in an ideal world. So I would say you don't know what you don't know. And a step to knowing how to be more inclusive is asking, hey, what are your challenges? And what can we do to remove some of those barriers? Or like, whether that be, forming relationships with businesses, local businesses to find ways to make, coffee shops more accessible, maybe have more room, or like maybe just keep one chair out from like one of the tables and just have like a little reserved accessibility sticker so that someone with a wheelchair can just come and just pull right in. I think it's just starting those conversations, and I think without talking about it, there's no awareness. And I think everything begins with awareness, but then it also begins with a question.
Yeah, I think I don't know the programming or how it works in the ability experience, but I think something very similar to this, except Sue-Ann talks. She does these kind of things in person generally instead of being virtual. Maybe at the next PodCap College, you have a panel, and instead of hearing a keynote that talks about the ability experience, maybe you have something similar to this, where you have someone emceeing and you have a captive audience of anywhere from 350 to 500 collegiate men that are there to make a difference in the lives of people and people's communities that have impairments. Maybe you have another questionnaire panel in person where each chapter has to submit a question, or you have just a free reign. If you have a question, stand up, ask it, because the most important thing that we can do is have an educated conversation. And the more conversations that happen between people that have shared perspectives, like these panelists, and people that don't have perspectives, right? That's how you build connection. That's how you build bridges, and that's how we expand our network. So I think maybe in the future, instead of hearing keynotes at PICAP College, maybe you have a panel of questionnaires that you can ask, and men that have submitted them can hear them answered in person, and can feel a new level of assuredness that what they're doing is making a difference, and that they're not going to hurt anyone's feelings by asking sometimes very direct questions that we live with it our whole lives. We'd rather have someone ask a question when it comes from a space of empathy than to ask just to kind of be a smart aleck. So I think conversations like this are a huge step forward, and as long as we just have a vision that we want to live in a country and in a world where we don't even have to have these conversations because it's just so normal, that it's just so ingrained in society that this is how the world works. Everyone looks a little bit different. Everyone has their own adversities, and that's okay. That's what makes people great.
Of course, yeah, I truly appreciate that. And I want to ask if you'll have any last minute thoughts that you wanted to give to our attendees today.
I just want to say thank you to anyone that tuned in or anyone that sees the recording of this. I think it's important, and I think that you should be proud of yourself for taking an initiative to at least hear a conversation that maybe you take only one thing from this entire discussion, and that's what you work on until we have another discussion or until you have a discussion with someone else. But as long as you're trying to make an honest change and progress forward in the idea of advocacy for people with impairments and disabilities, then I think you're on the right track. You don't have to be perfect. It's an effort thing. As long as you're trying, then people like the panelists up here will thank you for that, because you don't have to do anything, right? The idea that you're choosing to make an effort for us, it means a lot. So just know that you're appreciated.
I think Evan can understand it as an athlete as Suhan articulated so eloquently in her responses. The only person that is stopping you is you. And once you remove yourself, then the sky is the limit. So we all need to be treated on an equal playing field, no matter what disability or abilities. I get to take a look back and say, how can I make it better for the next person? And how can I make it better for my community? And let your star shine. And let it shine very brightly. And I just thank PICAP and the ability experience for this amazing opportunity for us to share with really great 3 people on this panel. And I'm better for me to go, y'all, and thank you again.
I would I guess I'll close it. Just ask, don't assume, because assumptions build barriers, and barriers are what leads to, those assumptions are what leads to stigmatisms and stereotypes and sorts of ideas that marginalize people with disabilities. And so the more you ask, the more you learn, the more there's social stigmatisms and those walls will come down, and you'll actually find that you have more in common than you do difference. And yeah, and I also want to echo Evan and Kyle that I'm very appreciative to be on this panel, and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity and the time to share my part of the story.
Of course, we are so grateful that the three of you joined us today for the panel. I certainly learned something, and I hope that everyone else in attendance did as well. If you feel like you didn't have a question answered, or you feel like you want to learn more, we can definitely put you in contact with the panelists. I'm sure they would love to speak with you. But again, thank you to our panelists and all of our attendees today. They'll wrap everything up for us. Thank you all. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.